What's going on, everybody? Today I want to talk to you about Europe. I spent all of 2024 living in and traveling all around Europe, and it was absolutely incredible. Obviously, Europe is so beautiful, has such amazing culture and history, just so many different countries, and everything you can experience on the continent is great. But there is one problem with Europe, and that is that it gets overrun with tourists, especially the same cities all the time. Paris, Barcelona, Rome, Prague, you can name it, there's going to be a lot of tourists there. So today I want to talk about something different and say 5 underrated cities that you can find in Europe, avoid the crowds, but still have an amazing experience. Let's get started. All right, so number 1 is Wrocław, Poland. The city that's in the western part of Poland. It's the 4th biggest city in the country. You can avoid the crowds because most people tend to go to Warsaw or Krakow, but Wrocław is definitely worth visiting. I found it to be really fascinating, and Poland in general is amazing because there's such a deep history and culture there, and you can just explore and see so much in the country of Poland. But Wrocław is the perfect blend because it's a smaller city, but not so small where you feel like you're in a small town. But it's also not a huge city where you feel like you're just in this major metropolis. So it's a good mix and has so much charm, especially in the old town in the market square. And there's a great food scene there. There's everything you can want in terms of cuisine and bars and sights to see. My favorite thing was going up on the mathematics tower because you can see the whole city there. This is a great view that overlooks everything, and it's beautiful. And I just really love the vibe and the people and everything that Wrocław offers. So I think that that's one of the major cities I think you should visit, and is really underrated in Europe. Don't miss it if you can go. Okay, and now moving on to underrated city number 2, which is the 2nd biggest city in Slovenia, Maribor. And honestly, Slovenia as an entire country is very underrated. I think it doesn't get the love it deserves. It's just such an amazing place. There's great nature, great people, and it's just a very small country in Europe, so there's a very relaxed vibe about it. But if tourists do go to Slovenia, they tend to go to Lake Bled or to Ljubljana, the capital, but they often overlook Maribor. And I'm here to tell you that Maribor is a great city, and actually in 2023, it was voted as a top 3 destination to visit in Europe. That shows you how great it is. And honestly, I just loved it because there's a good culinary scene there. There's great wine. Actually, they do have the oldest grapevine in the world, which is kind of cool to see, and you can buy wine from that grapevine, so that's an interesting fact. And there's just so much to do and see. And once again, like Wrocław, it's very good because it's not too big of a city, but it's not too small, so it's a good blend, and it's very relaxed and great. Plus, it's very close to nature, so you can get out of the city, experience all the greenery Slovenia has, and experience the nature. There's also this really cool hike up there. I don't remember what it's called. I think the hill is like Pyramida Hill or something like that. And when you walk up that hike, you can get a view of the entire city, and it's absolutely beautiful. So I think Maribor is an underrated destination, and Slovenia as a country is as well. So you definitely should check it out if you can. Okay, and now let's talk about underrated city number 3, which is a capital city. So I know it's hard to kind of underrate a capital city, but I think when you're talking about traveling to Europe, this is often overlooked, and that's Vilnius, Lithuania. Traveling in the Baltic region of Europe is super underrated because I think those 3 countries, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, are so cool and deserve more love. But Vilnius specifically spoke to me because I feel like it's just such a cool medieval vibe there, and the old town is actually a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and it's huge. So there's so much to explore and see in the old town of Vilnius, but generally the people of Lithuania were so friendly. There's a good food scene, and I think that there's just so many cool things in Vilnius. There's this really long river where you can walk along the river. There's some really nice walks, and there's a lot of medieval architecture, and there's a cool blend of the old architecture meeting the new architecture. So it's kind of modern and old at the same time. I don't know, it's just a really cool city, and especially in the summer when I went there, there was really a lot of nightlife as well. So it's just a good energy, and I love Vilnius if you can't tell. Plus, the Lithuanian cuisine, I think, is underrated overall in the world. So if you go, you can definitely check out the cuisine and just experience all that Vilnius has to offer. You won't regret it. Oh, and one more thing about Vilnius, my favorite activity there was walking up to the top of Gediminas Hill. You get a view of the city and the river, and there's a little castle fortress thing up there. It's pretty cool, so if you're there, check that out. Okay, and now moving on to city number 4, which is Olomouc, Czech Republic. And whenever you hear the words Czech Republic, the first thing that comes to everyone's mind is definitely the city of Prague, and for good reason. Prague is amazing. I really love it there. I lived there for a full year. So Prague is a great city, but it's the epitome of the problems I'm talking about today, which is the fact that, especially in the summer and in the wintertime, Prague gets super overrun with tourists. The Old Town Square gets so crowded, and it's just really, really intense with the amount of people who are there. So if you want to experience true Czech culture, you can go to other cities in the country, and one that I really loved is Olomouc. Olomouc is the 6th biggest city in the Czech Republic. It's in the Moravian region, which makes it very unique because that region has its own specific cuisine, and there's Moravian wine, which is delicious as well. So I found it to be a fascinating place to visit, and they even have their own astronomical clock in the Old Town Square, so it's kind of similar to Prague, just on a smaller scale, which is cool. But Olomouc is kind of a university town. So during the school year, it feels like a younger crowd and a university type scene. But when you're there in the summer over the winter break, it's very, very laid back, and you'll definitely be avoiding the crowds. Honestly, you can walk around some of the cobblestone streets completely alone. So it's a really cool feeling, but I just loved it there. There's this big castle and cathedral, which is beautiful. There's a lot of parks, and there's just a very laid back energy. So Olomouc is something that you can kind of experience the Czech and the Moravian culture without having to be in the crowded city of Prague, even though I do recommend Prague. But honestly, for underrated cities as far as they go, Olomouc is a great place to visit. And finally, number 5 for today is another capital city, and that's Sofia, Bulgaria. And like Vilnius, Lithuania, I think that Sofia, Bulgaria is also a capital city that's often overlooked when people are traveling around Europe. But I really love Sofia because I think that, unlike all the other cities in this list, it's really more rough around the edges, but the deeper you go into the city and talk to people, you realize the charm and the amazing nature of Sofia. It actually has one of the biggest Eastern Orthodox cathedral churches in the world, which is the St. Alexander Nevsky Cathedral. It's just this beautiful, grand building, and it's so cool to see and go into and experience, but also just going around the old town and all different parts of Sofia. You see the culture there, and it feels like really Eastern European, which is super cool to me. And I found that it was very charming, and everyone I talked to there was so friendly and welcoming. And we actually did this wine tour there where we tasted all these different Bulgarian wines and learned about the history, and that was really delicious and very unique experience as well. And the more I talked to that person who gave us the wine tour and everyone there, I fell more in love with Sofia. So I think that if you go and you experience it, you'll really love it for what it is. And it's just an underrated city, so you have to visit Sofia, Bulgaria if you get the chance. All right, everyone, so there you have it. Those are 5 underrated cities I think you should visit in Europe, especially if you want to avoid the crowds. And just to recap, it's Wrocław, Poland, Maribor, Slovenia, Olomouc, Czech Republic, Vilnius, Lithuania, and Sofia, Bulgaria. All of them are incredible. I think you won't regret it if you visit them. It's just such an amazing experience to go to different parts of Europe that are not on the same tourist path. I highly recommend you do that if you get the chance.